Paul A. Blake, an author, motivational speaker, marriage counselor, marriage officer, minister of religion, entrepreneur, husband, and father. Paul is the CEO and founder of Words Worth It Motivational Speaking and Training Company Limited, an organization dedicated to helping through the power of words. Paul lives by the mantra, I can do all things through Christ. Paul holds 2 bachelor degrees and is a candidate for the Masters of Theological Studies from Nations University in Louisiana, USA. Paul was nominated in 2019 for the Indie Legacy Book Cover Design of the Year for his first book, Words to Inspire, Volume 1. Paul is one of the most requested lecturers in personal development for the National Youth Service Hope Program in St. Catherine, Jamaica. He believes that if people can change the way they think, they can also change the quality of life they are living. Join us as we welcome Paul A. Blake.
All right, let's send up some emoticons and some hearts in the chat. Let's applaud him and make him welcome. All right, good to have you, Sir Paul. I'm going to
be here.
It's just good to have you. I'm going to turn over to Raquel, my co-host. Raquel is a digital marketing expert, and she is going to be leading the interview for this evening. Raquel, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for once again, allowing me to be your co-host, guys. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining us. And I know that, some of you have been following us for a number of sessions. We truly appreciate it. This means that we are providing the value that we promised you. All right. So, Paul, tell me, because one of the first questions, and I know it might seem cliche, but every author has their own journey when it comes to writing their book. So perhaps you want to share with us the journey. What led you to writing your first book?
Well, I'm glad your journey is indeed a journey. I started writing basically in high school. I started writing poetry in high school. Didn't get very far with it, but from very early I realized the power of words, and a lot of what comes out in my writing has to do with my own story growing up. I grew up with very low self-esteem, very low self-worth because of a number of things, and I started writing down quotes and stuff in my later years. And when Facebook became popular, I started posting some stuff on Facebook. And out of that, somebody just said to me one day, why not think about putting it into a book? And I had no idea what publishing was. And I started, I kind of stayed away from it for a while. And then I started doing some research on publishing. Didn't know anything about self-publishing, by the way. And it was basically by trial and error that I came across the whole idea of publishing. But writing for me is therapeutic. It's something that I love to do. I'm a reader by nature. And, as I read, I also write. And so I have a lot of stuff. I have stuff that I've not published yet, and probably may not publish in my lifetime. But I have a lot of stuff that I've written over the years, poetry and so forth, that has helped me personally. And one of the things that led me to writing was really the power of words. And if you notice in my bio, I speak a lot about the power of words because I believe that words can change people's lives. And when I say words, I mean positive words can change the lives of persons, and because it has also changed my own life. And I want to, pass off some of the knowledge that I have gained over the years to other persons who have been through the same struggles that I've been through, and probably even going through some of the same struggles that I would have gone through in my younger years.
Okay. So basically your writings, it's not only therapeutic for you, but you want to share some of that knowledge with the next generation.
Yes, because the truth is we live in a somewhat very negative world, and people are broken for one reason or another, and a lot of it comes through many times through the words that we speak to persons. And I would have been the victim of that in many instances in my younger years, through whether through school, sometimes even through family. And it is because of that why I ended up with low self-worth and low self-esteem. Didn't even know some of the things that I could accomplish. What a part of my story, and is that I I went to a primary school being labeled typically adults, and I internalized much of that, and I didn't even pass common entrance until it was my very last chance. Didn't do very well in high school either. I mean, I didn't do very badly, but I didn't do as best as I could. And so, a lot of that had to do with some of the stuff that I would have heard over the years that I internalized. And it was through the influence of other persons in my life, through positive words, that I was able to transform from being that person who I was younger to the person I am now. So much that even when I went to university in 2002, I ended up with a GPA of about 3.6. And when I graduated from UA, I graduated with upper second class honors. This is something that I didn't know that I could accomplish when I was 17, 18 years old. And so, and the interesting thing, when I graduated from UA in 2007, the person that handed in my degree was Mrs. Camille Hutchinson, who taught me in high school at Manchester High School. And I remember something that she said to me while I was at high school. One day she caught me playing the fool on the school premises, and she said to me that she called me Mr. Blake. She said, Mr. Blake, you don't know the potential that you have within you. And it was this very same teacher who went to UWI to teach, who handed me my degree in 2007. And I remember the smile that she gave me when she handed me that degree that day, because this is the same person that would have been in high school. I didn't know the whole time because of different issues. And years after that, she handed me my degree. So, it has been an awesome journey for me. Many, many hardships, but an awesome journey anyway.
You know, I love that you brought that up. I love that you brought up they called you adults, you're labeled adults, because you see, one of the things we want to highlight the struggles. So what I'd like to know, what were some more of the struggles that you had to go through in your earlier years coming up, and then what was that turning point? I know that teacher said something to you, it may have clicked at the time, it may not have clicked. So some of your struggles, and what was that turning point for you?
Um, well, a part of my struggle would have been I grew up in a typical broken family. My parents got divorced when I was 15 years old, and I still remember vividly and it happened when I was in third form. I was just about to enter third form, and my parents broke up, and I think that set me downhill. Affected me in a very big way, and even ways that I didn't understand until I was way up in my 20s. And so that for me was one of the defining factors in my life. Growing up with my parents, my father being one side, my mother being another side. The typical I grew up in the country, in the rural part of Manchester, and I mean a lot of what happened during those years were things that were not wholesome to my development as a human being. Now, my my greatest turning point was in 1998. In 1998, the 10th of June, 1998, I will never forget the day that World Cup started. And I became a Christian that day. And that was the defining moment of my life that set me on a path to positive thinking. my life was transformed entirely because of that one event. It is because I became a Christian why I decided to go to become a counselor. It is why I'm in ministry. It is why I'm in marriage counseling. It is one of the motivations that also helped me to, take up this whole experience of writing. Because, yeah, I mean, if somebody had told me 15 years ago that I would be a writer today, I'd tell them that probably they're not in the head hard somewhere, because I just never saw myself as being, when I started my first book. I mean, I wondered in myself whether or not anybody was going to even read anything that I had to say. No, today I am five books published, and looking forward to publish another two before the end of the year. So there are several things, persons who have influenced me. One of them is my minister in Mandeville, Carl Powell. He was one of the persons that would have seen in me that there's greatness in me. And because of those persons, my wife, my family, you know, my brothers, my sister, all of those persons would have been persons who, when the world was telling me that I couldn't, these persons would have pushed me and said that I can. And so, a part of us becoming, butterflies, changing from caterpillars to butterflies, has to do with the kind of persons that we have influence in our lives, and even our decisions at times.
Okay, awesome. One comment that I have going around is from Duns to Dominion. And trust me, this is what is coming out. But you said something really important. You had positive influences in
Mhm.
your life. So when everybody else was saying, boy, you're dunce and this not gonna work out, somebody else was saying, no, you got this, you
That's
can
right.
do it.
That's right.
Awesome. So you have a couple of books under your belt. So I'm really interested. Is there any one book that you think trumps the next? Like, meaning, is there any one book that holds a more special place in your heart over your other books?
I think the first one, because of, um, I had to learn by trial and error. I mean, the writing, well, I wrote, the my brother designed the cover and he did the format, which was not a problem because he's good at what he does. The problem was editing and proofreading. I didn't know anything about those things. So my first published book was a disaster. Away from the away from the cover and the formatting, it was a genuine disaster, because I didn't know anything about somebody else editing your work. I did my own editing and I thought that I did a marvelous job. There was nobody that did a job like I did, until I sold the first copy and somebody pointed out some of the errors in it, and I said, "Good Lord, this is by." I had ordered many books by then,
Oh dear.
and the good thing, only one was sold, right? And I had to go back and redo the entire process. And by this time, I hadn't met Ruth yet. I hadn't met Crystal yet. So I mean, I had to do everything over by trial and error again. And so, it was, when that first book was published, at points in time, I felt like, "No, this is not for me." Because here is it that I thought that I had done just an excellent job. And here is it that, no, it is not what I wanted it to be. And I say, probably this is just not for me. And I met Crystal first, and it was Crystal who basically set me on the path of doing research, and she gave me some pointers. You know, my two go-to persons are Ruth and Crystal Day and Ruth. I mean,
Right.
I have all of Ruth's videos and things saved on my Facebook page. Whenever I want a reference, I just go into my archive. I have all of Crystal's stuff saved on my Facebook page. And I learn most of what I've learned are from Crystal and Ruth.
Okay, wow. You hear that, guys? So, one thing I like about what you have shared so far, your first book was a disaster, but it didn't stop you from really going through the process again
Yeah.
and getting it right. The first one I wrote was a disaster. It still stands on Amazon as a disaster. I don't think it has ever sold any copies. But now that I'm on my way to being published. I'm doing it right by working with
Mhm.
Ruth. So, I'm really happy that you didn't despair. So I know you probably touched on it, but you self-published your first book. Do you want to give us a little bit about that journey? Because you said it was a disaster. What was that like?
All right. So I wrote the manuscript. Thought I did a very good job. Didn't know I was supposed to get an editor to send it to for them to edit and proofread and all of that. I didn't know anything about using programs like Grammarly and pro writing aid. Didn't know anything about that. So I basically did everything by myself. Went through the process, and at the end of the manuscript, I said, "Boy, I think I have an excellent manuscript now." So I asked my brother to do the book cover design, and he did a very good job. Well, not only good, but an excellent job, because that particular book was nominated in 2012 when I published that book. In 2015, I believe it was nominated as the book cover of the year. Didn't win, but just the nomination was, I mean, set me on
It's
the
good.
mountaintop. So that was good. So I, you know, I went on Amazon, did the upload for the book and all of that, and went through the entire process. But by the way, it wasn't Amazon KDP yet. It was Create Space. When I
Yes.
did, and then Create Space was converted to the Amazon platform. So I did my thing through Create Space. Um, you know, made the mistake of ordering books that were not ordered by anybody. So it took me a time to sell them, and so I didn't know anything about a book launch. It was actually through Crystal that I learned about book launch and all that, because I was just totally ignorant to the process, and so I had to just fail at times and pick up sometimes and then fail and over again. And it was sometimes a very depressing process. I mean, there are times when I just decide that, look here, I am just going to forget about this thing about writing, because it is just too much work, right? And and sometimes when you can't find the people to do what you want to do, because one of the things even about my editing, I sent my book to be edited by somebody the second time around, and when I got it back, I thought that, I mean, this person is an editor, so they must know what they are doing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got it back, I paid the person to edit the book, and Lord have mercy, when I ran that manuscript through Grammarly, the amount of things that Grammarly told me that was wrong with that manuscript, I had to now sit down, go through the entire process with Grammarly again, and actually find another editor to do the final editing. And it was really, really very frustrating. Um, the times when I just thought that this just does not make sense. And I mean, if I had followed how I felt then, the second book would not have been written. Because the second book is actually a continuation of the first. It is the same material that I had before. I had so much material that I didn't want to put it into one book. So I kind of split it in two and said I'd write volume two. So that is actually how volume two came about. But the process can be very discouraging if you don't know what to do. I think that's part of my thing. Very discouraging if you don't know what to do.
Okay, that you know what? Good point. Excellent point. Because we want people to know. We had Didan on day one. Didan Ashanta. She was the first speaker,
Hmm.
and you would listen to her and you'd think that it was an easy process to self-publish, because she self-published and her book cost her a total of $30
Hmm.
to get to print. However, what she said was profound. She said she operates differently from most in that she consumes information until she becomes an expert. And she made sure to say that not everybody is the same.
That's
I'm
right. True.
listening to your journey, and I'm realizing that you went it by yourself, but it was a very hard road. And one of the questions that comes to my mind now is, how long do you think it spent? I know you said it was depressing at times, and anybody can understand that. Yes, it would be depressing at times, but how long do you think And it doesn't have to be approximate. You think you spent really on the publishing, the writing, the publishing, and whatever else you did. And the mere fact that you had to go over it, how long you think you spent? And there's a method to the madness of that question, you know.
I think my first book, I think probably took about a year before I got it right.
Wow.
That's a, it's about it's about a year before I got the entire thing right. That was the process because you know, as you go along, and as Diane said yesterday, that you know, she has a particular disposition that is open to some things, and she was already involved in graphics before she started
Mm-hmm.
writing. So there were some things that came naturally to her. I am not so inclined. I love writing. I don't like doing anything else. So I will write, and I'll write from now on to eternity. But when it comes down to doing other stuff like the formatting, I don't even like editing, even though I can edit. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not my comfort zone. So the whole, and when you talk about designing a book cover, I have seen people use things like Canva and design excellent book covers.
I
I
know,
I, I can't even design a birthday card with Canva
right? Oh dear me.
because what I see, you know, what I see people produce from Canva, even the free version of Canva, I don't have the patience to do that. I mean, it as soon as I spend 5 or 10, 15 minutes on Canva, I just get very frustrated and just I don't want because that's just not me. And so a part of what I believe in is that if you're not so inclined, then you find the people, find the resources to use to get the job done. If you, I mean, if it's not something that you enjoy doing, it is better you pass it on to somebody. So I personally, I have no problem paying somebody to do the work that I want to do to get the finished product, right? I prefer to go ahead, pay the persons to do it for as long as I can get a reasonable price to do it, rather than I take it on myself and mess it up in the process.
Okay, and you see, that is really what I wanted to drive home and to get to anybody here who hasn't written their first book yet and who is aspiring to write the book all throughout the course of our series of interviews and our series of guest speakers. We have been highlighting that you really need a guide. You see, our dear Paul here took a year to get his first book right. I mean, if you really work out time and money and what your time is valued for in a year, you find that it's best spent really getting the help that you need. But Paul, I want to go back to your book, Words to Inspire,
Mm-hmm.
Volume 1. And the title alone is enough to make anybody who is interested in, say, motivational, anything motivational, to really pick it up and read. Of that book, what is the three most important things? Like, if I'm to buy a book and pick it up today, what's the three things you'd want me to get from that book?
Um, Belief in self, first and foremost. Belief in self, the power of a positive mindset. I mean, I believe that one's mindset can change your entire future. And I believe that your mindset can also inhibit your future. So, yeah, I mean, that and what is the third one I'd want? Uh, that words are transforming. I remember some years ago I heard the statement, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." I really don't know which idiot came up with that. I
Thank
mean,
you.
that is one of the stupidest things that I've ever heard anywhere. I mean,
Exactly.
words have power. Words can make you, words can break you. I mean, more wars have been started in this world by words more than anything else. And so for me, I believe that persons need to understand the power of words in transforming their lives. And anybody that reads anything that I write will hear that from me, that you know, just getting up every day with 10 positive words will change your entire day. If you notice, when you get up in the morning, it is what you tell yourself, that when you get up for those first few minutes, that actually defines your entire day. And if you get up one morning and tell yourself that you're going to have a bad day, I guarantee that you'll have a bad day, because you are going to invite everything in your space to have a bad day. But if you get up with the thought that today is going to be a very good day, and you tell yourself that for the entire day, no matter what happens during that day, you are motivated simply because of the things that you have told yourself when you get up in the morning.
I completely agree. And you're right. I mean, that sticks and stone statement has got to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Once I realized, because, when you're younger, you don't really understand the power of words. So once you really understand the power of words, you realize that that statement is just utter garbage. But I know it probably came from a good place. Given that you went through so much with writing your book, and you had those failures, what were some of the struggles that you could highlight, and any advice for upcoming authors, any upcoming writers, authors, you would give to them based on any challenges, based on the not any challenges, the challenges that you faced in.
One of the first things that I would say to emerging authors, and it happened to me, and I think I heard Ruth mention it and somebody else mention it. Please do not put unrealistic timelines on when you want your book to be published. Because when you do that, you set up yourself for failure. It is better to spend the time and to write the thing properly and get it published properly than to do a rush job. And then at the end of the day, all that you do is spend money that you ought not to spend. Man, when I heard Ruth's story about how she was indebted when she published her first book, I thought I was indebted when I did mine, but I, I was nowhere near where Ruth was. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that sometimes we don't take the time to do the necessary research. So for persons who are thinking about publishing or in the process of publishing, my first advice would be don't set those unrealistic timelines. Setting timelines that you want a book to be completed by your birthday, but your birthday is 3 weeks away, and all of that. I mean, when you think about the finished product, when you think about what you want to put on the bookshelf, when you think about what is it that you want people to get from what you're producing, then it is worth the time producing it properly, right? I mean, sometimes even some of the stuff that we use, if you're not a graphic artist, please don't try to design a book cover. If you're not inclined that way, don't try to do it. It is better you pay the money. One of the things that I've realized in publishing is that sometimes, well, not sometimes, if you want quality work, you have to be willing to pay for it, right? Notice, you don't have to, nothing has to be an exorbitant figure, because there is a deal everywhere. But some of the times, the reason why people produce such poor work is because, I mean, they don't want, you tell somebody that $50,000 to edit, to get a manuscript edited, and they tell the boy, I am not going to pay that to edit a book, but then you publish a book and it's nonsense. Whereas if you had spent that money and you could have made 50 times 10 if it was
Mm-hmm.
produced properly. So for me, it is really spending the time to make sure that you have a finished product. The other thing is get coaching, because in publishing, as much as we think we know everything, we really don't know everything, right? When I look at what I have gotten from Crystal and Ruth, I mean, I would pay good money for that. What Ruth gives on her Facebook page, if she wasn't giving that, and I knew that she had the expertise that she had, I would be willing to pay for it. Right? When I look at what Crystal give, I mean, the first time I went to Crystal about my book coaching, when Crystal quoted the figure, I mean, I started having gray hairs. I I didn't know that people, I mean, could quote those kind of figures for coaching. I mean, when I was done with Crystal, I was most impressed, because as a matter of fact, before I was finished, I mean, I did about 6 weeks, 6 week of coaching with Crystal, and before I was finished with the 6 weeks, I started seeing results, and even today, I am still seeing results. So we have to be willing to go the extra mile to produce quality work. Even even on this platform, this is one I mean, I am so proud of what Ruth has done, because this is a launching pad for many things. And so if you want to be a publisher, then you also have to go and find the resources. And this is one of the platforms. There are so many platforms that are available to us, but sometimes we don't spend the amount, I mean, the work that, you know, and to do the research and so forth. And that is why many times we don't produce the kind of work that we ought to produce.
These are wonderful points, and I hope that everybody here, if you are currently writing your book, if you're in the process of publishing, I hope you're taking notes, because these are some gems right here. You need coaching. I mean, you heard it from Paul. He did not have coaching before. His first book was a disaster. He had to go over and do it again. Now imagine if he had the kind of guidance from Crystal and Ruth then for the first book. It would have been a different story all around. It would have been, wow, I had a wonderful experience with publishing, and nothing hardly went, wrong, and money well spent, and all of that amazingness. Um so a part of this is to also shine a spotlight on you as a Caribbean, author, as part of the Caribbean diaspora. And so from that book, from your book, tell me, what products and services have you been able to create? Because you see, one of the things we want to highlight here is not just about writing your book. It's easy to write. It's relatively easy to write. Let me just say it. I think it's easy to write. I mean, people write garbage every day, so it is easy to write. Finessing it is a different story, right? But it's not that easy to sell 1 million copies of your books, but it's easy to make $1 million from your books if you
Mhm.
have a clear idea of what you want. So tell me, Mr. Blake, what have comfort, what has been born from your book?
You know, there is something that has been happening since yesterday. We started this seminar, and the fact is, I have earned more money from the products that I've created than the books that have been sold. I have, as a matter of fact, I am not focusing on book sales. Book sales will come if your book is, if it is quality, then the book sales will come. So I don't focus on that. Out of my books, I have created an abundant life coaching program that goes with one of my books, 40 Days to Abundant Living. I have created a mentorship program with my newest book, with lessons from a father to his son, which is a book taken from the context of Proverbs. I have created a mentorship program from that for young men, right?
Wow.
Um, I have created from my books empowerment seminars. I have created marriage seminars from it, and as you know, as was stated, that I'm a marriage counselor, and I'm also a marriage officer. I am actually in the process of writing a book now along with my wife in what we are going to use in our marriage seminars in the future. So I mean, a part of what we ought to do as writers and as authors is that, don't focus too much on the book sales. And I think that is one of the grave mistakes that we make. We think that you write a book and you're going to be rich tomorrow morning and you can get on a jet, and I mean, it doesn't work that way. One of the things that this seminar is pushing is the whole thing of entrepreneurship, where we create merchandise and quality courses and stuff out of our books. And that is what I've been doing. I mean, I have earned much more money from doing those things that come from my book than actually book sales. Ruth made mention this evening that, I mean, Ruth has been writing for how long? And Ruth said that she has not made $200 on Amazon. And I thought that I was I mean, I was doing badly because I have not even made $100 yet, and I've been writing since 2012. And I realized that, boy, I have somebody in the boat with me. And I realized that, if you're going to look at selling books on Amazon, and you probably you will miss the mark. Persons want to write a book and be a bestseller instantly. I mean, being a bestseller doesn't mean that it is putting money in your pocket. You're a bestseller and nobody is buying the book. I mean, there are things that you can do to be a bestseller when nobody is really buying the book. Right? So if we're going to create, look at that as the end all and in all of publishing, we have missed the mark. The aim of it is to create products around your book. And I mean, there is so much money to be earned from creating products and books that it's amazing. And if it is quality stuff, people will buy it.
Excellent. And with that, because you see, I'm going to segue in back to Ruth, because you see, when you talk about making a living from your book beyond book sales, this is Ruth's area of expertise. This is her little baby. It's like, okay, this is her baby. So, Ruth, you can take it away.
Thank you so much, Raquel. And thank you, Paul. It's a good thing I wasn't doing the interview because you'd have made me cry. Raquel, you guys did a good job. I'm glad Paul hammered it home. The unrealistic timelines need to stop. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. The unrealistic timelines need to stop. And so I'm just gonna share the PowerPoint because we have some persons who are just joining. What is Paul talking about? How could he earn more from just selling books on Amazon? We make more money buying our books through KDP as authors and selling them back when we go to speak. That's one. So I've sold, maybe if I check it now, maybe about 3,000 books. And you make more from that when you sell directly. But let me give you the chart, what we mean beyond book sales, so that you understand exactly what Paul is talking about. And if this person is saying madness, then we are going to go back into the comments, read some of the comments, and then take some questions from you. And then we close out with the announcements and tell you what is going to happen for tomorrow. Paul, I could just sit here all day and listen to you share because I don't have to speak anymore. I can just say, Paul, you need to host this next year because you've caught the vision so well and you understand it. And yeah, it's just amazing. So